Hi guys, and welcome to our review of The Last of Us. I am Ninja Misty, and with me is...
Ninja Andrew, also known as the Last of Us.
He is not. So what we're going to do here, we have actually played through the game on hard mode and on normal mode. And we're going back through on survivor mode.
Which is the hardest mode that unlocks after you beat the game one time.
Some of us are being forced to do this. Just
putting that out there. I know, right? Sheesh, Ninja Misty. Thanks a lot.
I know. I had to twist his arm. But what we're going to do here, we're going to start it kind of at the... It's really where the game begins. There's kind of a prologue. We're not showing that to you because it is spoiler heavy. So we're going to kind of just jump into a little bit of the gameplay here. Kind of give you our opinion of the game now that we've played through it. We might even convince Ninja Andrew to give you his opinion of the multiplayer.
Oh gosh.
Buckle your seatbelts for that one.
Nice.
So I guess we can...
We'll hit resume.
We'll hit resume.
And this will put us right into the...
Are we going to hit it on 1? Or have you already hit it?
3, 2, 1. It's the last of us. Okay, so this is sort of like where the game begins, where you can control Joel, who's basically like, I guess you could call him the main character or main protagonist of the storyline for the game. So,
what about you, Joel? You been summoned for this bullshit yet?
Nope.
Alright, so as we progress here, following Tess, you want to give us your thoughts on the game?
On the game? Well, I think graphically everybody can see this looks really nice. Like, that's coming out of the legacy of Uncharted, which were the games that Naughty Dog made before this. And I think there are a lot of similarities to the gameplay itself. Not quite the climbing around, but a lot of the shooting aspects of Uncharted are very similar. Especially the aiming control and the cover fire kind of options. And then I would say like the gameplay is fairly comparable to other stealth style gameplay where you're going to be doing a lot of trying to sneak up behind enemies that are doing patrol patterns and get stealth kills on them. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Definitely. I mean, you know, you can choose how you want to play this game. You can go in guns blazing, or you can sneak around and live.
Yes. And to do that, you're given a range of weapons that you pick up throughout the game. And then there's also crafting items that you get to make by picking up crafting materials. And it's just playing the cutscene of me walking through the gate, so I'm just gonna like wait a second.
Had the day off, visiting a friend. All right, move on through it. Thanks.
Get out of here! Go! Close it up! Fire fly! Fucking shoot them! They're running!
Come on, let's go, come on.
Okay, I'm just gonna get us inside the building here. And I think things will quiet down a little bit.
For sure. I think we're just a little bit out of sync because I'm in the building.
Okay, for sure. So basically, like, I'm gonna use a health kit here to just wrap my leg. You can see it fills up my health in the bottom right corner of the screen.
All the checkpoints. We're gonna have to go around the outside.
Outside the wall.
Or we could just let Robert go.
Cute.
Okay, so right now in the storyline, they're kind of like after somebody who stole some goods from them. So in this post-apocalyptic world, it's not something that they can let pass. So they're going to get their stuff back. I won't say too much more than that. I'm not going to go too much further ahead right at this second. Just because I don't want to like chirp a whole bunch of stuff and have people talking over me. But basically, stealth stuff similar to like Deus Ex that they just did recently, Metal Gear Solid, Assassin's Creed. Like there are similar aspects, although I would say that this game feels, while looking very good, isn't quite as expansive as some of the other things that are on offer out there, offering a very similar type of experience.
I was there.
It's very
Tunnel looking.
theatrical, like it feels like you're playing like in a TV series or a movie or something like that as you play, which is cool, but like
Marlene.
it still has that very linear feeling of Uncharted and hasn't expanded very much beyond that, as well as that the gameplay doesn't really expand into any new territory. You're doing a lot of stuff that we've seen in a lot of other video games, and you're not really getting a whole bunch of options that are really all that new. There's some stuff that I can't really show right now, where he has like a look mode. Well, it's a listen mode actually. You go into listen mode, you crouch, and you can like sort of see enemy outlines through walls and stuff, and that helps you to determine where they are and where to go and stealth assassinate them, which is always the best option if you can get as many down with stealth assassinations and then take them out with guns if they find you. Very similar to like a Metal Gear Solid kind of situation where if you screw up and you want to just keep going, it gives you that option. But what would you say about like, how do you feel about like the expansiveness of things like the weapon and crafting systems in the game?
I like the ability to enhance my weapons, but honestly, I think when I think of crafting weapons, I kind of judge it against Dead Island now.
Sure.
And it just feels like you have more options in Dead Island.
Yeah, it's like you're given, I think by the end of it, 3 pistols, 3 rifle type weapons, a flamethrower. Those are like a few of your weapons, and then you get to make crafting stuff. And it's kind of like, what were you gonna say?
One thing that I do like is being able to craft on the go, though.
Yes, without having to find a crafting table, even though you can find crafting tables to improve your weapons and stuff.
To improve your weapon, but being able to make Molotovs, shivs, that kind of thing, I like being able to do that just on the fly.
Yes. I didn't like the concept of a breakable shiv. I didn't like basically one character in this game that you run into has a machete and he's just hacking and slashing away at the enemies like there's no problem with it whatsoever. But Joel here, that you're controlling for the majority of the game, it's like he makes shivs, stabby weapons out of like tape and broken scissor blades, and you have to find like 4 pieces of a broken scissor blade to make one shiv.
Which is really insane.
Yeah.
Really.
Where it's like, why can't this guy just have a knife like that he uses throughout the whole game? Wouldn't that be like much nicer than having broken scissor blade shivs?
They give Ellie,
one of the other characters that you do get to control at some points.
but she has a knife and hers doesn't break.
You know? And it's like, what, this guy like can't, like, you could take a piece of scrap metal, and that's what one of the other characters does. He takes like a piece of scrap metal, turns it into a machete, and like Joel is stuck with his scissor blades, which just feels silly as you're playing through the game. So I don't know. That's just one aspect that I had like a little bit of an issue with.
You ready?
Other stuff is like when you're going up against the enemies, like I would say like the majority of enemies in this game ended up being human enemies.
Yes.
You know, like when this game was like advertised, it seemed like you were going to be fighting a lot of like crazy zombie creatures, but really when it comes down to it, you're spending most of your time fighting like just gangs of guys with guns.
Military.
Yeah, either military or like gangs that are like living in the ruins of the cities and stuff like that as you're trying to get from point A to point B. And like it kind of feels like they misrepresented it a bit or just sold it as something that it really isn't. Like it looks really great, but you don't really spend your time doing too much more than fighting like regular enemies, just like you fought in Uncharted.
Where's the ladder?
There's got to be around here somewhere.
There's some stuff here with like they told me I'm out here looking for this ladder, so I'm looking around for that. But like that was one issue that I had with it. The other one is that like the gameplay itself. Okay, you do have Molotovs, bombs, your guns, and stuff like that, and for the most part you're trying to do stealth kills and then use your weapons to cover you as necessary. But like the sad thing is that the gameplay never progresses beyond doing anything other than that. Like you're always just going to be fighting this next group of enemies, like, or like very rarely broken up by, hey, look for the ladder or look for the plank to walk across this thing. But that's all you're doing. That's the entirety of the gameplay and the single player side of the game. So it's just kind of like, for a game that's coming out after things like Assassin's Creed or Metal Gear Solid, it just feels like a lot of energy was put into making these areas look good, but like you can see how much we've gone through already. Like how long does it take to make an area look like this? Sure, it looks good. This is the last time you're gonna see it, these 10 seconds that we took to run through it. So like enjoy it for the amount of money that they spent to make it, but like really, you know, this is the majority of the gameplay. And here, this leads me to one of my other things. I just walked in the house here and I was able to start looting some stuff. Looting in this game, it's kind of cheap because, okay, this is a bad example because it's a Firefly pendant, which are more rare, but like stuff will pop up with like the triangle icon from like halfway across the room. So there's very little work that you have to do and looking for items to survive, whereas I think the game should have been very much like having to go around and look at each little thing individually and be like, is this something that helps me? Like I don't know.
Although, but I'll stop you there and say that by the end of this game, I was sick of having
to collect stuff.
And collect stuff.
But that's because of how much it cost from collecting stuff just to make something that you needed, you know? And also, okay, this leads me to one other thing because it keeps telling me to toggle my flashlight, which is on R3. Which is, okay, they wanted it to feel like you're clicking the button of the flashlight, but like for me,
if we get our merchandise back, it should be easy to
it's not on the button that I would want it on, and they don't allow you to change controls, and flashlight isn't the only button that I would reassign. The run function is on L2, which I also don't like at all. I'm heading down here into the spore hallway. The L2 run function, like I can aim and shoot no problem with like the L1 R1 functions, but like listening on R2 and running on L2, I wish I could like flip that, but they really won't let you. So it's just a lot of this game I spent feeling like
There's our culprit.
the biggest issue I had was the controls. It just didn't feel right.
Better keep your eyes in.
We should be able to get
Which
through here.
leads me into... Oops.
You okay?
Yeah.
Pulling
Damn
down the
ceiling's
house
falling
on
apart.
top
Be
of me.
careful.
But leads me into multiplayer. How do you feel about multiplayer?
Well,
Watch it.
I think I've played a little more multiplayer than you have.
Yes.
I think that what I was expecting was something along the line, but this also goes back to what I was expecting out of the game. I thought there was going to be a lot more of the infected or, the zombie type characters. And so I was kind of gauging what the multiplayer would be similar to like the
Red Dead Redemption
Red
style.
Dead zombie,
Yeah.
kind of the horde mode where you would be on a team and you would be kind of like surviving against these waves of the infected.
And then maybe have an option for like a versus mode within that or something.
Sure.
And
what it turned into was it's just you're there shooting the opposing faction. And they kind of give you this backstory. Oh, you have your little kind of colony and you're
part of a clan and you have a faction that you're fighting for.
right,
or whatever.
and you have this many people in your little camp that are well or that are sick, and there's just all these different kind of little build-up they give you to this backstory. But then when it comes down to it, you're just shooting guys just like you would be in Call of Duty or Battlefield or whatever, and you're shooting them with really crappy guns. And most of the time what I found is I was up against people who had obviously been playing it a little bit more, so they had some armor and they had guns where I could unload like a full clip. And I think they got like a hangnail and they could look at me and kind of aim in my direction and I was dead. So it was really frustrating. I found it incredibly frustrating. Oh, what about you?
Well, basically, I have never been a fan of any multiplayer style game that basically says that your gun isn't effective. So, like, if I shoot a guy with an entire clip out of an assault rifle and he doesn't die, I don't find games like that entertaining or worth playing, just because it's like, that's not realistic at all. You want to go and like watch some videos online of like what a bullet does, you know what I mean? It's like shooting an entire clip full of bullets at somebody, it's gonna like obliterate them, so it's just like, I don't like games with that unrealistic feeling. Now the single player side of this game is excellent. I would say, like, the guns feel like they do realistic amount of damage. You can upgrade your abilities with them. That feels really good. But, like, the multiplayer side of this game just feels fake and very unrealistic. And I think that sort of just turns me off of it and makes me question, like, why didn't you take some of this money from, like, making these levels that you go through an area for 10 seconds and there's nothing even in there, but they spent like a lot of their budget making it, and take some of the money that they spent making this multiplayer, and why not just put all that money into the single player? Because the single player is really good, except for the controls and the fact that the gameplay is fairly one-dimensional. It's like, it does look really good. They do have some like driving storyline aspects, although that was one thing that Misty and I were talking about before we even came on to play, is that like, this is I'm gonna say what I feel. I feel that a lot of the storyline aspects were they felt gimmicky to me. It's like characters come in only so that they can be used as some sort of like,
We're here.
I don't know.
I got it.
Plot device.
plot device for the storyline to either for the storyline or for you to feel some emotional thing about it. And it's like it kind of just it makes the characters also feel a little bit one-dimensional in certain ways because they're only there for their one aspect and then that's it, you know? So I guess that sort of covers like how I feel about the game in general and like some of the aspects here. I'm in this room passing the plank up to Tess.
Here, pass it to me.
Whereabouts are you?
That's where I am.
Okay, do we want to pass it up and we'll like see what happens when we go out the door at the top?
I think I can handle it.
Sure.
Okay.
Alright.
Because I think we're close to a cutscene or something or other. And we'll see how close we can get. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? You know what I mean? Like how you felt about the game, how you would feel about like a sequel, you know?
Well, I'm interested to see what they do with the DLCs.
Yes.
I think the game, I mean, once you start playing it and you kind of get a feel for it, you see where it's going. There were a few twists that
Make sure they're
you probably weren't expecting going into it.
Clear.
that I wasn't totally expecting. A lot of it did feel kind of like the direction I thought it was going to go in.
Which, okay, just then say something to that, or like, let me ask you something about that. Is it like, is the storyline basically too much of what you would expect it to be, where it's just like you feel a little bit like you're just going through the motions waiting to get to the actual stuff of it?
I think there were certain parts, like I said, going in where I would have bet money that X, Y, or Z would happen. And I'm not going to say X, Y, or Z because I don't want to spoil it for anybody
Else, right?
played the game. But there were definitely some things that you saw coming, you know, a mile away with, you know, a siren on top of it.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I know that this is going to happen somewhere in the storyline, and boom, it does.
It felt predictable, basically, which is a bit of a letdown in certain ways because you're expecting something really big from a story or a game on this capacity, you know?
But I think the thing is, you know, I'll stop enough to say that I enjoyed it. You know,
yes, I did enjoy playing through. Like it did have enough to it that I was like, okay, what happens next? Like, you know, makes me curious. You know,
I definitely think that it evoked emotion. At certain points in the game, I think that the dialogue, the writing of the game, was really good, especially coming off of playing Defiance, where the writing was abysmal.
I would say also the character acting in this is really well done. That would probably be my biggest kudos on the portrayals done for Joel and some of the other supporting characters. Like, they do look really good and they do feel like believable performances. Although I think that's one thing that's a little bit telling, is that they still do feel like performances instead of feeling like really rawly real. But it's still good. It's still good. It's like watching a TV show or a movie or something, you know?
I think that the graphics are amazing. I think that the level of detail adds a whole
aspect of
extra layer
intensity.
To the gameplay.
Yes.
Absolutely. I like the fact that the NPCs that are with you actually do damage. I mean, they're definitely, you feel like somebody's there that has your back.
You just touched on one more thing that I wanted to touch on, which is that, okay, certain NPCs, you're right, they do help you out.
Where do you think you're going?
Malik, sit back down.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just waiting for this little interaction to pass. So certain NPCs really do help you out, like, certain characters will, like, blow away other zombies when they're on your side, like, helping you get it through your section. But, also, like, there are certain sections where it's like, this is basically an entire game that's dedicated around an escort mission. So you're having to escort another character through the game, and there were a lot of sections where I was going through where it was like the programming on that character I found very annoying, because it would be like you'd be hiding somewhere and that character would go and walk out and would alert the guards to your presence, or that character would come up behind you and you'd try to move back into your hiding spot and they'd be blocking your way. And it's like some of those aspects where it's like, if the game is going to be built around that, then really like go in and design it so that like every interaction with enemies are really pre-programmed, so that stuff like that isn't going to happen, because it would feel so much more realistic. You know what I mean? If it was like when you were trying to move and let's say you were bumping into that character, like he puts his hand out and like will touch that character, but he doesn't like, you know, push with them or push them out of the way kind of thing, like you would see in real life situation, I guess. You know what I mean? It just didn't feel, it felt, I don't know, very gamey. I don't know. So whereabouts are you now?
I'm gonna stop right here before you go into the area where you're gonna fight the gang members.
Okay.
Back to the war.
I'm standing right outside of
Fair
that
enough.
gate. You have that one cutscene, you know, you walked through kind of the little shanty.
I just passed the cards to the guy. Should I keep going, or do we want to fight these guys and then we'll cut it there?
Sure.
We'll just show that little scene, even because I think it's... Yeah, I'm outside of that gate, so let's walk in there, and we'll do that.
Here we go.
It's usually the kind of guys you're fighting for the majority of the
Let us
game.
through.
You guys need to turn around and head back if you know what's good for you.
Our beef isn't with you. We just want Robert. You don't want to do this.
Turn the fuck around and leave now.
I'm not going anywhere without Robert.
Bitch, I will bash your skull unless you turn around and get your dumb ass out of here.
Fuck this.
Take cover!
You ready?
Yeah.
I'll cover you. Get the angle on them.
You know, I don't know if you can use listening mode on survivor mode. Have you tried that?
I've tried, but it hasn't let me, so I'm doing without. I guess that adds a whole new level of fun to the game, especially with the difficult enemies. Well, if this guy's just gonna sit here, I'm gonna try and pop one in his face. Woo. He's still kicking. Is he gonna pop up again?
Give it up, man. Make it easy.
It moved me with him because of auto aim. Let's see. Oh, come on. Sit down. Alright.
Nicely done, Texas.
Yar.
Dude,
Did you get him?
how the hell did you
Oh, yeah.
know these guys?
Alright, so we want to cut it here?
It's writing blank
Sure.
checks.
Alright, guys, so that was our review of The Last of Us. Hopefully that, like, told you enough of what you need to know, or what our opinion is, at least, of the game after having, like, we played through the entire thing. So this is coming from, like, having seen the entire game as well. So, I'd still say it's worth it to check out the single player storyline, and maybe you will like the multiplayer. I'm not a fan of that particular kind of style of multiplayer as well. So that's our review. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully there was something there that helped you, and join us again next time for more epic adventures on Dark Ninja Gaming.
Bye.